Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Title Update 1. Today we tackle the update for Charge Blade for you SAED enjoyers like myself. I'm happy that SAED is really good in Wilds, even more so in Title Update 1. The reason it's not as popular as I talked about in my first build video for this concept though, it's just how good Power Axe mode is for Charge Blade. SAED can still put out so much elemental damage and you can reach such high element damage with a Charge Blade in particular. The potential's always been there. The big issue that holds it back has always been more about the monsters themselves though. They're lacking element hit zones and how low they are. With the introduction of Zoshir, however, as a tier 3 monster, we have 30 dragon hit zones on the exposed head and wings, and suddenly the potential is better because it's also a big enemy, big hitboxes. Many of the ticks will see their true value. That's awesome, but there's also the new changes that have come in Title Update 1 that I'm going to cover. It's been good for element builds. So today we have an updated set of builds for you, a build for Dragon in specific thanks to Convert Element, and then a build where you're going to use that for the other 4 elements, relying on element absorption instead. As usual, before we cover it all, I need to give the important credit to Josh, who has helped put together these builds and did the math for these sets. While I play and understand Charge Blade and SAED, he's the veteran putting it together based on the information I give him and our conversations we have. He's behind the math of it all. So with that said, let's get into the new details around these updated builds. Before we cover the builds and all the changes there, I want to highlight what's changed and why it's good. For example, we have Rocksteady Mantle, which has been buffed by a big amount. Previously, you had 30% damage reduction while it was on, and now you have 60% damage reduction. So you're like an iron wall while this is on. Rocksteady Mantle was always the mantle of choice for SAED because, you know, it's a longer animation and having that protection to not let yourself be interrupted, especially during important moments, is very good. For example, in the Zoshir fight, Rocksteady Mantle in the final phase is a lifesaver. Next, we have the Convert Element skill, which is now easier to access because of this talisman right here. The talisman can now be upgraded to level 2, which means we sacrifice less to actually achieve level 2 or level 3 for this skill. Convert Element itself at level 3 will add a total of 180 dragon to a set, and it starts to provide the special dragon blasts of 310 per pop with the right setup. As a further heads up on how it works though, you take an element hit of any kind, Convert Element triggers, providing the buff. It lasts for 2 minutes, and then after that goes on a 1 minute and 30 second forced cooldown. After that, it can activate again. So you make sure to intentionally take an element hit of some kind, even though you probably guard it or maybe even iframe it, or at worst just take the hit, so it can activate again and you maintain the uptime. On the other hand, we also have the Element Absorption skill, which as you can see in Title Update 1, we have these new Zoshir gloves, which in Alpha gives you 2 levels of Element Absorption and 1 Coalescence, and in Beta, great decoration slots and those 2 levels of Element Absorption. This helps us access the skill in general a lot better. It's really nice. The skill, if you don't know, is basically the same as Convert Element with some slight changes. It boosts all element instead of just dragon, but because of that, the numbers are smaller. So you'll get 40 element, 50 element, 60 element per level, up to 3. As a neat bonus though, it does give us element resistance to whatever element actually hits you, more resistance per level. And you'll find with this set in particular that we have the Guardian's Protection or Ward of Wyvria, reducing element and unique damage when we're in Wyvria with this set, so you have quite the element resistance with this build up. Anyway, element absorption works like Convert Element. You take an element hit directly, which could mean you guarded it, iframed it, or whatever, just took the hit, and then for the next 2 minutes it's active, and then when that's done, the same force cooldown of 1 minute and 30 seconds, ready to be activated again after that. One last skill topic I want to mention is Burst. Burst provides you with raw and element, but also a big amount for Charge Blade in particular. Despite our smaller use of the axe mode, we can still trigger this with sword hits, and especially the focus strikes onto a wound with the many ticks of chainsaw hits that provides. You just need to be aware that it does fall off if you don't land the blow for 3 seconds. Which means you need to make sure you're landing your SAED within 3 seconds of your last attack. Usually that means after a guard into an SAED or even after an AED you combo into SAED, in which case it works fine. But it's just important to be aware of that you don't want to let burst drop before you SAED because it's giving you lots of element. Overall, we can reach element cap with both sets today. The element cap for Charge Blade is 950 with the right Artian setup. You'll notice in our builds that we have various skills that will push you close or even to or even over that cap because you want to reach high element or even cap for those SAEDs. Technically, we could run a setup that runs less element so we don't hit that cap overcapping too much, but that would mean most of your SAEDs aren't ever at that capped element or even high. So you'll see that we do overcommit in a few ways, resulting in higher element being more consistent, resulting in higher average output for your SAEDs. So it's worth it. Next up, let's cover the weapon for the builds. It's the same for all of them, it's just depending on what element you're using. It will be an Artian weapon because with this, with the right setup, you can get all that nice attack confusion for the base raw. But more importantly, the reinforcement bonus, if you get 4 element boost, you're adding a total of 200 element. This also raises the cap and is why our cap is 950. It's very important. This is a shame because the Zoshia Charge Blade is cool, but as you can see, 200 dragon versus 500 is a massive difference outside of the worst decoration slots, impact vial, and all the other details. So Artian is unfortunately still the way, definitely in this case. In terms of offensive decorations, it's the same depending on whatever you're using. Load shells, focus, and the element attack of whatever you're using. Load shells is going to massively improve this experience because it means yellow gauge on the vials, you get 5 vials when you store it, or at red, you overcharge them, which is a big DPS increase for each SAED. So every SAED, you want it to be overcharged vials. Load shells really helps with that. On the other hand, focus is going to help you build up those vials faster. And since we want to be SADing as much as possible, you're going to want that. Obviously, you want the element attack of whatever you're using for the massive increased element that provides. So for my fire charge blade, I've got fire attack, of course, or dragon with my dragon, so on and so on. Outside of that, you can snag some extra bonuses, which has just made me realize I've actually found a focus handicraft decoration. I'm glad I just realized that. So on the magazine and focus, we have those extra levels of handicraft if you can get them, just to help your sharpness. And then you'll notice we've got quick switch or rapid morph. This just means we've got that 10% increase to our transformations, which will help you get those gads off at the right time or get into SAD maybe a bit smoother. Just a convenience thing. But now let's get into the 2 builds. As you can see, we have Charge Blade for SAD in Dragon, and then we have a set for all the other elements, which you'll run for Fire, Thunder, Water, and Ice. But the Dragon set is one in particular you want to use because of the Convert element benefiting Dragon in particular. So let's start with that. Here is the skill list that we achieve with this set using the Gore Beta Helm, the Zoshia chest piece in beta, regular arkveld in beta for the gloves, the Gore waist in alpha in particular, so don't, forget that because it gives you that constitution of 1 level of antivirus. And then finally, the new Mizutsune boots or legs in beta as well, providing 2 levels of burst on them. With this, we also run the Convert Charm, very important. Don't forget, you want to run Rocksteady with its newly buffed state, 60% damage reduction while it's going, and it helps to secure SADs no matter what the monster's doing. Here are the decorations that we use to achieve this skill list. As you can see though, we got 5 out of 5 burst, 3 constitution, 3 agitator, convert element of max, coalescence, antivirus, and a random bit of evade window. For set bonuses, sadly, we only have gore for the 2-piece, which is providing us that affinity bonus, giving us frenzy, making antivirus give us even more affinity. So nothing too exciting here. Overall though, because this is a convert element setup, when you take an element hit of some kind, even if you guard it, you're going to get a massive boost to your dragon element, but also you're going to get those dragon blast hits. Extra pops of damage during the 2 minutes that this is up. By comparison then, we have the all element SAD, which you'll use for the other 4 elements. It's got a slightly different list, so let's run down what equipment we're running for this. We have the Gore helmet in beta, we have the Zoshia chest, gloves, and waist all in beta in this case. Importantly, that's going to give us a lot of our element absorption here, where we only actually have 2 levels in the build because we don't need 3, it's an overkill. But yeah, those are those 3 pieces. Lastly, we have the other 2 piece of gore, the legs in beta, and this time we have the chain charm for 2 levels of burst, and again, don't forget about Rocksteady Mantle. Here are the decoration slots that we use to achieve this skill list, providing us with full 5 out of 5 agitator, which is nice, the full burst, coalescence, antivirus, element absorption at level 2, and then 1 evade window, 1 flinch free. You'll also notice that I use the 2 free 1 slots for recovery speed because we actually have now multiple pieces of Zoshia. This provides us with Zoshia's Pulse, the 2-set version. So super recovery means when you get hit and you have that red bit of health, you heal beyond that kind of all the way to full, overticking bits of healing. We can make that better by running these recovery speed levels to get through that red bit faster and get into that overhealing sooner. Otherwise, as usual, we have the 2 pieces of gore for frenzy and the affinity with that. But also we have 3 pieces of Zoshir, right? So that gives us guardian protection. That's the thing that's meaning we take less elemental and unique damage while in wyvria. So whether you're facing Zoshir or just in that locale in general, it's really cool. So it's quite a comfy set. Now let's do the math for the sets, and we'll cover the raw for both of them to begin with because it's slightly different. In the dragon set, we only have 3 agitator, so that affects things compared to the 5 agitator of the 4 element set. So starting with dragon, as you can see, with the right Artian weapon setup, we have 205 base raw. We'll assume about a 65% uptime for agitator, which is reasonable, so that's a 7.8 raw increase. Then we have 18 raw from burst 5, bring us to 230.8, multiply that by 32% thanks to white sharpness, bring us to 305. Overall we have 34.55% affinity with the base Artian 5%, agitator 3 with 65% uptime, and antivirus level 3 as well. With no crit boost, that's a 25% increase on your crits. And with our smaller affinity, this is more like an 8.6%, or well, more decimal numbers as a damage increase. So you can see that on screen. So 305 times that long number brings us to 331 effective raw with this set. So by comparison, the all element set has 5 agitator compared to the 3 of the dragon set. So it's going to increase things like the base raw getting 13 added raw compared to 7.8. And it also gives you a bit more affinity as well, pushing us to 39.75% affinity overall. So I'll show the math on screen quickly if you want to look at it, but ultimately it's 343 effective raw compared to 331 with those 2 extra levels of agitator. But now let's do the element for the 2 sets, starting with the dragon focus one to begin with. With the perfect Artian weapon setup with the element boosts, we start with a base 500 element. We times this by 1.2 thanks to Ele attack 3, bringing us to 600. We also have coalescence 3, so that we times that by 1.3, bring us to 780. Next we have the flat increases, so Ele attack 3 is an extra 60, burst 5 is 140, and convert element at level 3 is an insane 180, bringing us to a ludicrous 1160. And we cap at 950, so we're well over that. But don't forget, like we've been saying, this is when everything is up at the same time. Coalescence uptime is not that great. Convert element has an internal 1 minute and 30 second cooldown. Really, all you can rely on is Ele attack and burst, and then sometimes coalescence is up and sometimes convert elements up, sometimes at the same time, and that's when you really overcap. But the way we have this set up means you have the highest average, highest element, so your SAEDs are hitting really hard and it's overall worth it. Anyway, 950 is the cap. Let's de-bloat that by dividing by 10. Bring us to 95, the true element for SAED. But there's also our non-SAED attacks, right? Whatever you're hitting with your weapons. So we multiply that by your white sharpness, which is 15% for element damage, bringing us to 109.25 effective element for non-SAED attacks. Which is relevant because you know you're using the sword, you're using focus strikes, a bit of axe here and there. It's nice to know. And that doesn't even include all of the convert element dragon blast attacks, those pops, adding up even more DPS. So it's very good. On the other hand, of course, we have the element absorption set for the other 4 elements. Same thing then. Base 500 element, times that by 1.2 from the Ele attack 3, bring us to 600. Then we have 3 coalescence, that's times by 1.3, bring us to 780 again. Then we have the flat numbers, 60 from Ele attack 3, 140 from burst 5, and 50 from Ele absorb 2, bringing us to 1030 when everything's firing at the same time, which is still over cap, which is 950. So again, don't forget, coalescence is only up about 33% of the time. Ele absorb maybe 60% of the time. We'll just be closer to that Ele cap with this setup when things are firing, and overstacked when everything's firing at the same time in those rare cases. We want the SAED to hit as hard as possible, as often as possible, so it's worth it. Anyway, it's the same math as before, 950 at the cap. Divide that by 10 to get the true element, which is 95. Everything that isn't an SAED will benefit from white sharpness for your element, so a 15% damage increase, once again bringing us to 109.25 effective element for all those attacks outside of SAED. But there you have it. Those are our updated builds for SAED in Title Update 1. We now have easier access to your 2 main skills for the element, the dragon setup with the nice pops of dragon blast around consistently high element, and then the all element build does have all that extra comfort with lots of element resistance, the healing, and lots of element cap time still. SAED will hit hard against your great element hit zones, such as tier 2 monsters like Gravios, but also Zoshir, right? Exposed head, exposed wings. That's really nice. I think it's only going to get better in the future updates as well. Maybe Legiacrus will have good hit zones and future monsters after that. And either way, it's just a fun build to play, and it's nice that SAED is getting better with this update. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.